Build 90 proof of life video. Just going to run through the paces. If you looked at the prior video which showed you the internals, this is just running through the different paces. First thing I want to do is I'm going to move this over just a little bit here, and then I'm going to turn this on with the front button. Right now this is set to S video. Let's get it booted up. Alright, and then I'm going to change it to composite. And you'll see the video degrade just a little bit. However, over here on RGB, it looks very nice and everything is set. You'll excuse the paint speckles. In testing this unit, I discovered that my test SC1224 had died, so I had to pull the backup out of the closet, or the attic, I should say, and it had some speckles on it, and I haven't had a chance. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is I want to show you the graphical OS. So I pressed F12 and got into the BIOS setup menu. I'm going to turn the graphical OS on by enabling it just by pressing enter, and then I'm going to press B for save and boot. Okay. And this boots us into the graphical OS. Right here is the mouse select button, and I'm going to press this on and cycle it until I have red, and then that tells the Atari that I've got the right port set for the mouse. And it looks really kind of rough under composite. Under S video it looks better, and under RGB it looks like an old Mac Plus. Very nice. Alright, so just make sure that this is on red. It should be on red the next time you boot into it, and you should be fine. The one thing I want to do now is turn it off, because with it connected and with the mouse connected and telling that this is where it should look, it puts mouse inputs into the joystick port, and you don't want to do that. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to press F12 again. This gets me to the setup menu, and since we're in the setup menu, you have different ways that you can set up your extended RAM. A 1 meg Rambo, you can disable it, just have the base 64K, a 320 Rambo, a 576 Compy Shop, just for compatibilities. Maybe programs want to run on a particular upgrade, and then the 1 meg Rambo is what I've got set as default. You've got your standard XL OS, you've got 400, 800 OSB. It's also the PAL setup. This might allow you to run a few programs under PAL that are PAL programs, but remember, they're not going to run that well, and they might not run at all because you don't have the PAL chips or the PAL crystal in there, but it's a way to get around it. There's also a QMEG, which is a command line based OS, and then the XEG OS, the XEGS OS, which will give you access to the XEGS ROM slots. Right here, let's change that back to XL. Right here, you've got what is in your basic ROM slot. So it's a Atari Basic C, which is the obviously the most up to date. There's Altera Basic. There's the Atari Assembler Editor, and then there's SynAssembler, and they're right there for you to program with if that's what you want to do. I've set it for Basic. Basic default is enabled. In other words, if you have programs that don't want Basic into it, instead of trying to hold Option, you can just disable it, and then Basic is never on until you tell it's on. Spartados OX is disabled right now because we're in the graphical OS, and the way I like to get in and out of those is if you enable Spartados, it disables the graphical OS, and if you enable the GOS, it disables Spartados. I find that very easy to do, so let's do that. Boot to loader, we'll get to the loader in a second. Date, you can set the date here as well as the command line. This tells you the date and the time. This, in case you need to change where the VBXE is setting, this will allow you to do that. The 0640 is the default. Your stereo pokey is enabled. If for some reason it conflicts, you can always turn it off and on. This is if you need to set the second pokey to a specific interrupt request. And the V gate, the GTI V gate, is to prevent overscan on LCD monitors. You can turn that on and off just by pressing enter. You can also see the status on these lights up front, and we'll look at those in a second. Okay, your PBI BIOS. This always needs to be enabled if you want to access the compact flash slot. I have it set to D5. That's just the boot drive. My thought is that D1 through D4 are generally going to be floppy drives and should be treated as such, and so D5 is going to be your first hard drive. It will look for your config sys at D5. You can change that if you want. Slave drive is always going to be disabled unless you get a dual slot compact flash adapter, which are out there. I even sell them, but until you get one, then it just is set as disabled. High-speed I/O is right now set up for all floppy drives, D1 through D4. That's why I keep them that way. And also for the PC Link, which is the SiO2 PC, which we'll talk about in a second. This is your information for all of the setup. You know the stereo is present. Also, this verifies that it has a physical VBXE present because it's scanned for the core. You know it's a 6502C and it's an XLXE, also set up for NTSC. Okay, these are some shortcuts. Also, I have this set for color 7. You can set it for whatever you'd like. 7 is just the default that I like. I like that color blue, so you don't have to stick with it on my account. This is hooks for a Rapidus, the 65816, and then these are your various boot keys. You can select these and then execute them, or just press the corresponding letter and it boots you into that. Right now I'm going to press L. It's going to ask me to save the changes I've made, so I'm going to say yes. And then we're going to boot into the loader. Now the nice thing about the loader is that, let's go to this. So this card, SanDisk 4, it's a 4 gig, and it has 4 partitions on it. This is my personal one. You just get yourself a SanDisk compact flash card and you can set it up. I've got a FAT32 partition, an Atari partition, 2 FAT16 partitions. And the reason for that is that these partitions I can access on a computer, Windows or a Mac, and copy files to it, and then also access those files from the Spartados command line. I can't access this from a Windows or a Mac, but I can access this from a Windows or a Mac, but I can't access it from the Atari itself, right? So, in the loader, I've got various files. I've got XEX, I've got ATRs. Right now, I'm going to load up the XEX. Okay, and I'm going to check. Okay, right now it's set into port 2. Down, up, left, right, diagonals. Okay, and I'm going to take the cord out. I'm going to put in port 1 here. Let's test fire. All right, up, down, left, right, diagonals. And so we know that's good, all right? So I'm going to press F12 again, and I'm going to go back into the loader by pressing L. Except this time, we're going to demonstrate the disk swap button. All right, so right now, you'll see this green button and this LED here. Passamentarius is a 2-disc demo, and in order for you to play it, you need to change discs and tell it that a disc has changed in the drive. So what we do is we have a map set up. We select the map. It loads. Okay, we hit start. And if you notice, it's loading the file. You see the dots marching across. Okay, now it says insert side 2. So we're going to press this green button, the LED lights, as you can see there. And then I'm going to press enter. And you notice that it's loading the disk. Okay, you see it marching across the screen there. And then it starts. Right? And it's a cute little animation. Nothing important, but it's there just to show that that functionality works. We're going to press F12. That gets us back into the BIOS setup screen. At this time, I'm going to press B. Okay, that saves and boots. That's the splash screen. We're going to say yes to VBXE. Okay, now, just a couple of things. You may notice that the prompt is set in a particular way. That's how I set my prompt. Prompt $L, $P, slash, and then a bracket. And then the manuals is to access the manuals. I can to help on any particular device that SpartaDOS has a manual for, and it'll show on the screen in my path, just like DOS. Okay. Now you may have noticed that when it booted, it had different options for configs. And in order to do that under SpartaDOS, you need to create a directory called sparta.dos. So let's change to that directory. All right, and then those are the config files. And okay, and so it's just your standard setup, how to use the memory. Sparta, in order to operate, Sparta needs that device. This is to operate through the SIO. This is to read a Tori.dis. This is in case you have an Indus drive. If I had an Indus drive, I would set it to drive 4, just because this is the driver for the clock that is on the Ultimate 1 meg. This is the driver which allows you to access the FAT16 partitions through SpartaDOS. This is your VBXE driver. RAM disk is set to drive 9, just because that's what I usually do. And then this is a console driver, which allows me to change the number of characters on the screen. Okay, now let's go through the paces. We're going to check the legacy drives as well as the SIO2 PC. So the first thing we're going to do is for the legacy SIO, I've just got this SIO2 PC set up. I've got drive 1 and drive 2 set up here. So we're going to change to A, which is drive 1. You will notice I do drive 1 and it's still A. Okay, we're going to do a directory. Okay, and then we're going to go to B, and I want to cycle this for a second. And it's a splash screen on the RGB. Okay, let's do A. Let's do a directory. Okay, and then let's do B and do a directory. Okay, now the SIO2 PC is right here. I've got it hooked up to this Mac Mini right here, operating under emulation. There is a Mac version of Respect, and that's what it's called, but it's not updated as often as the Windows version, so I just run it under Windows. And it's real easy. The USB version, USB connector, that's the UART right there. And then once you connect, Windows usually sets up a COM driver automatically. Go to Tools, go to Options, and then right here, make sure you've got it set to the right COM port. Make sure this is set to DSR. Say Save. And you'll notice it's got one in drive 3 and drive 4. So let's do a C and do a directory. Okay, and then I'm going to do D and a directory. Okay, now I'm going to do that directory again because I want you to see the access lights here. Right? So what it's doing is, since I've set the path for those drives, it will access the compact flash before it sets everything, looks for everything else. Okay. So far, what we've done is we've checked the joystick ports, we've checked the disk swap, we've checked the mouse select, we've checked legacy SIO. Obviously, sound is working. RGB is working. Also, if you don't have any sound connected right here, like if I undo this like this, and then let's do another directory, you hear the sound coming from someplace else? That's because it's the sound coming from the SC1224, right? So that's the cool thing. So if you don't want to have external speakers and you've got it connected to an SC1224, you're going to have sound. If you want stereo speakers or you don't have it connected to an SC1224, this automatically cuts off when it's inserted. So that's pretty cool. We've checked obviously the keyboard and the mouse. The composite is working. We are next going to check cartridge access. Alright, so I've just got standard beef drop from Atari Age. Put it in label front, and it says cart front right there. Okay, and so just going to put it in, and sometimes you got to jiggle it just a little bit, especially on those ones that are closed, because it has to access the tabs to open it. Going to press on, and it's going to do a splash screen just like normal, and then goes into the cartridge, right? And then, you know, we'll just and then say it wasn't good, I'm just my joystick came off the wall here. Alright, so that should be it. I'm going to package it up and put it in the mail tomorrow. Enjoy.